This is kind of like an impromptu kind of like, I just gotta sing Rise of the Beast for the 4th time. I've been talking with a lot of other people about this. I read a Tumblr post from Void about this. I think we all can collectively agree, at least with people from what I've talked about and what I've experienced, that I love the way they interpreted and the way they did Optimus in this film. The way he was just done and the way he was able to show like character growth and not just be angry and furious for the sake of being angry and furious. They let him show genuine emotions and let him feel like an actual person. I think especially with the movie versions of Transformers or of Optimus we've seen in the past, I think for a lot of them, he has just kind of felt like, this is not just for Optimus, but I think for a lot of like leader type figures, a lot of the time, they feel like they have to shelter the burden all on their own. They have to have the weight of the world on their shoulders. Optimus feels that way too. It's live actions more so. He's been very like stoic, and there's nothing wrong with being stoic and like being a leader. He feels like everything is his fault, everything is his responsibility. He feels guilty for sending all of the Autobots off Cybertron to a different planet, to Earth. He feels guilty for having them stay here for so long when it was only supposed to be a pit stop. He feels like it's his fault. And a lot of the time we don't really get to see Optimus show that type of emotion. I mean, in the Michael Bay films, we've seen him like show mostly anger towards other people and want to kill things. But in this one, especially when it comes to B's death, they really let him feel like a human being, like a person. They gave him emotions. They let him feel vulnerable. Instead of learning about like Ratchet's death and being like, I'm gonna kill them and going on a killing spree. Don't get me wrong, in some cases I enjoy for Optimus. I like seeing an angry, furious Optimus in that sense. Kind of out of character for Optimus, whereas this felt more in character for Optimus to not go on a like killing spree, but to feel like it's his fault, like he failed B. He throws that metal thing and he's like, it's my fault, it should have been me. He's putting all the blame and the burden on himself. The writers and the director and the people working on this film knew that Optimus was more than just this stoic leader, that he, obviously they just depicted that and showed it in the film, that he is this like natural born leader. It feels like he has to take on all the burden himself. Like he feels like he can do no wrong because he has to hold it all together for his fellow Autobots. He has to be the strong, resilient one. They can lean on him. Film throughout Bumblebee's death and throughout becoming closer to humans, he starts to kind of realize, I can rely on other people. I don't have to shelter the burden myself. I can trust and rely in humans. Sees some of the things that he is presenting to himself. He sees the humans presenting that. Because he said in the film, we shouldn't rely on humans. They only want to protect their own. Whereas he's doing the exact same thing. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to protect your own, but it's through learning through Optimus Primal and seeing that he opened up to the humans. He let them help. He trusted them enough with part of their transwarp key and lived among them for thousands of years. He got to know about humans and see that there's more than meets the eye. I think Optimus sees this relationship that Optimus Primal has, and he starts to realize that I can lean on the other Autobots. They can help me to shoulder this burden. It's not my fault that I left and brought us here to Earth. They really let him breathe, let him be vulnerable, let him feel like a flawed character. And Optimus has been a flawed character in other incarnations, but in terms of live action, I feel like this is the first time we get to see a really vulnerable, open, and a really progressive Optimus Prime, and I appreciate that because he is my favorite character, and so I always like to overanalyze and really deep dive into what is going in through his brain. I feel like this one really let us see more Optimus. And yes, he is a little different because he's not as like taken with humans as like he usually is in the past, but this is Optimus Prime that, yes, has been on Earth for 7 years, but they've been incognito. Other incarnations of the Autobots have been on Earth, of him have been on Earth, and they've kind of interacted with humans, like, or they've been with the military, but in this one, they've stayed incognito, and really, he's still feeling that guilt, like he felt like he failed his Autobots. And he feels it even more with Bumblebee. He feels like he failed him, is like lashing out at humans, but also more so he's lashing out at himself. Feeling like, this is my fault. How could I let this happen? When it's like, you did everything you could, Prime. And the other thing is, I think for a lot of us, we sometimes think of Optimus as not being able to be flawed, and that he's like this leader. He can't show flaws because he's supposed to be this leader. He's supposed to know right from wrong. But I think this incarnation of Optimus did a really great job of showing us that he is a flawed character. He makes mistakes. Yes, he's the leader of the Autobots, but he's made mistakes. So much grief and pain that he has experienced in this film because he feels like he failed his Autobots, but also he feels like he failed Bumblebee. So there's so much grief and pain there and loss when Bumblebee dies, and there's even more. He's sheltering even more pain. He doesn't bottle it up, which I love. I love that he is vulnerable in front of his team. He does show emotion. He does show the pain that Bumblebee's death caused him. He doesn't hide that away. And in so many instances, a leader would continue to bottle it up and hide it. And he could have very well done that, but he doesn't. Throws that piece of metal, and his team knows that this hurt him. And yes, Optimus makes mistakes. We all make mistakes, but we learn from it. Some of us do. And I love how Optimus is flawed, and he was able to learn from his mistakes. And even after losing what potentially is a devastating blow, he lost the key to get back home to Cybertron. He's now trapped on Earth. We looked at the beginning of the film, Optimus, he would be upset. He would be angry. He'd probably be blaming himself, putting more pain on himself, more blame. Also probably really upset with the humans. But because he's learned and progressed throughout this film and really started to see that not all humans are bad, and humans, there's more than meets the eye, but he's also learned more about them from Optimus Primal and seen the relationship Optimus Primal and the Maximals have built. He's seen that, you know, we may not get home ever, or not at this time, but that doesn't mean that we can't build a home here. We will protect Earth now. As Noah's shown him, as he's grown to know Noah, starting to realize that we can do this. We can have a relationship with humans. We can protect them. And after losing such an essential thing, he's still able to smile at the end of the film, which, that smile, oh my God, every time I watch it, I just like smile myself, because I'm like, it's very rare to see Optimus smile, but when I do, it is like the best thing ever. Like Void was talking about in her like Tumblr post about how I think in that instant after Bumblebee's death, when they're meeting back up and he throws that piece of metal, I also do agree that he was about to break in that moment, that he was at his breaking point. Throws that and you hear him let out that cry, that angry growl, and you think he's gonna start breaking down, because most people would, after losing someone they've known for so long, someone that is so close to them, you know in that instant you would break down. I would break down because as Optimus Prime, because he feels like he has to put all the weight on himself. He doesn't, and he stays strong for his team. Yes, he throws that piece and he lets out a cry of anger and hurt and pain, and there's grief. He still doesn't like break down because he believes because he's the leader. He doesn't think he could show emotion in front of his team any more than he already did. He doesn't have time to break down because he's got to stay strong and hold it together for his team. But his team would not look at him any differently. His team, I think, would look at him and be like, he's vulnerable in front of us. He's able to show us that he doesn't have it all figured out, and that's okay. In a normal situation, I think a normal person would have shown emotions and been open and broke down, but because it's Optimus Prime and he just thinks he has to shelter everything, he just wanted to be strong in front of his team. I get it. I understand it. Very in character for Optimus. Him and all the Autobots have been through so much, but he feels like he needs to be the thing that they can rely on, the thing they can lean on. So all of his emotions, all of his feelings kind of have to be pushed to the back burner, which in turn can cause you to have a massive like breakdown later on. I think he almost got to that point. We all make mistakes. Both Noah and Optimus were looking out for themselves, but also for their people, trying to do right by their people. Optimus was trying to do right by the Autobots. Noah was trying to do right by the human population. Well, they're not wrong in that instant, but again, they're looking at it from kind of like a selfish perspective. So I love that they got to show us a selfish Optimus Prime, because usually he always wants to take everything on himself, and he still does in this film, but he goes from wanting to look out to his own to now he's going, at the end, I'm going to sacrifice myself to protect our new home. I'm going to sacrifice myself and the potential for us to get home to Cybertron to protect Earth, because there is more to humans than meets the eye, and we're not so different.